You're like a disapproving head teacher.
Why are you late?
I just had to juggle a million things, which I didn't juggle as efficiently as I could. And also, obviously, I'm slightly worried about this.
Mm-hmm. Why are you worried?
Well, several reasons. Doing a photo shoot, I'm not sure that's going to go down well with people. We live in an age where, in politics, people can't disagree with each other without accepting the other person's disagreeing or doing something in good faith. Mm-hmm. So they've always got an ulterior motive, that they're in it for money, for career, for self-advancement, profile, anything like that.
All right, so why are you doing the interview then?
Because, I don't know, they got in touch and I thought it'd be quite interesting to have a chat with you, probably. I mean, I don't know, I agreed to do all sorts of things, and then I think on the day, why have I done that? But what they'll do is they'll get all these people at the moment.
Who's they?
Well, you see, it depends, doesn't it? On the left, they'll have people saying, because I'm a right-wing sellout careerist, and all the rest of it. And now I'm talking to you, who's this demonic presence for lots of people on the left, as you know.
Inverted quotes, yeah. Inverted commas,
yeah. So they'll be like, oh, see, now he's hanging out with
demonic
Spin
presence.
Master General of New Labour.
So, okay, let's start with this then. If you had to explain what is your purpose in life, what would you say it was?
What I always wanted... Oh, God, I hate talking about myself.
No, you don't.
Yeah, I do.
No, you don't.
I do. How do you know?
I'm just telling you don't. Anyway, carry on. What's your purpose?
It's so bizarre. I'm glad you know me better than myself. What I always wanted... I always had passionate beliefs, commitment to various causes, and my belief is that it's collective action that changes the world, and the role of the individual is very limited, but that in this position that I ended up in, that I would use it as a platform for causes, beliefs, and people who are otherwise ignored. And I didn't want to do what I do now. I wrote a book, Chavs, which got rejected by every single publisher, and then...
Apart from the one who published it.
Verso in the end, a small radical publishing company, and it just did a lot better than expected because of the timing, which
Mm-hmm.
was people were ready to talk about class again,
Mm-hmm.
because we'd had a crash. We had a Tory government come to power full of people from a certain background implementing policies that affected people from very different backgrounds in a very bad way.
So what are you trying to achieve with it? That's what I want to know.
What, in terms of what? Everything.
Yeah, that's not a purpose, that's the story of what happened.
See myself as part of a movement, I suppose, a broad movement.
What, like momentum? Like Corbynism?
No, obviously I've been around doing this for a lot longer before they appeared.
So what's the movement then?
It's the left, isn't it? It's a global movement. It's the movement, a collective movement to eradicate oppression and exploitation and bigotry, to build societies running the interests of the majority rather than rigged in favour of a tiny elite.
Can I point out it's not going very well?
I'm aware it's not going very well, and it's not going well anywhere of any hue. So,
but might it not be going well because people are too focused on this idea of movements rather than winning power in countries where you have political systems?
Hold on a minute, that's a false dichotomy. I believe, when I say movements, because I think it sounds to me that you've got a view of what I actually think, which you've turned up with,
no.
Which I don't have. Because
that's twice you've been paranoid. So
my belief, my passionate belief is...
No, I'm trying to find out what it is that...
I believe the whole point of movements is to achieve political power in order to transform society. I don't believe...
Right, and my point is that, I'm not saying this is you,
right,
but I think a lot of what's happening in the politics on the left in Britain now, the movement notion is getting in the way of us having any chance of having
slightly
power.
odd. I mean, in this country, we'll talk about the Labour movement, of which the Labour Party is obviously the political wing and exists to form a government in the interests of the people the Labour Party was set up to represent and champion.
Right.
So obviously...
Which currently we're not doing.
No, I'm aware of that, Alastair. I'm also aware, look, when in 1997, I mean, just so we're absolutely clear of my view, when I talk about a movement, what I mean is a movement for political power to transform society in the interests of the majority and to eradicate the injustices that don't just scar our societies but define it. I'm aware it's not going well, and the difference is, in terms of, if you look back in the 1990s, and obviously the brand of politics you were very associated with, that was at a time when the Clintons were in the White House, Lionel Jospin was on the march in France, Gerhard Schröder in Germany, across Nordic countries, the Netherlands and elsewhere. That brand of politics, third way style, whatever you call it, social democracy, whatever in America, you can't really call it that, but that was very, very powerful and strong. And now, everywhere, that is very weak. So even your brand of politics, because I think what's happened is you've got on the left, social democracy is in crisis everywhere.
Yeah, hold on. What weakened it?
We had a financial crash,
right,
principally.
But why has that led to... That should, in my view, have led to a strengthening of social democracy.
No, I'd put it like this. This is how I'd understand where we've ended up in. It goes back, obviously, in the 70s, the rise of the new right, which was triumphant and won this big, used the crisis of the 1970s.
Thatcher Reagan.
Indeed, because there's this view on the left that a crisis of capitalism automatically benefits the left. But historically, 1930s, we ended up with fascism. 1970s, we ended up with Thatcherism and Reaganism. Look what's happened this time round. But you had that, and the rise of the new right, which transformed societies. The defeat suffered by the trade unions in the 80s, which shifted the balance of power politically and so on. You had the form of globalisation we've had, which hems in, or seems to hem in, states and what they can do, the levers they can pull. And that obviously is bad for social democratic parties who are trying to use the state to change society, because the argument is a flow of capital will result if you do anything that's unless you steady the ship. The collapse of Stalinist tyranny, which obviously was a good thing, but it was portrayed by the right as being the end of history, and was used to say that even modest forms of social democracy were now dead. With the end of history, there is no alternative. And then you got the change in the nature of the workforce, which went from an industrial working class, communities based around workplaces like steelworks, factories, mines, now supermarkets, call centres, offices, people doing lots of different jobs. You don't have communities based around supermarkets and call centres. So that fragmentation had a big impact. And then you had a financial crash, and the problem with what happened there is a lot of social democratic parties accepted or implemented cuts which were very damaging to the people that they existed to represent. And if you look at, for example, Spain, PSOE, the Labour sister party, that had a collapse in support. It's halved in support. It's now trailing Podemos, a new party which was only set up a few years ago. In Greece, obviously quite an extreme example, PASOK, Labour sister party, it won, 44% of the vote in 2009, and now is on, 4%.
So listen, what's going to happen here?
Well, but this is the point I'm making. You can't divorce what's happened here to what's happened everywhere, which is, whether it's social democracy or what you've got in America, which isn't, the Democrats aren't the social democratic party per se, but what you've got is the fragmentation of support to either the populist xenophobic right or new movements on the left. In other parties where you have proportional representation, that process, in terms of on the left, has happened outside traditional social democratic parties. In this country, because of the nature of electoral system.
Do you think if we had PR, there'd be a new party being formed right now?
I think you'd have...
That might have a chance, more of a chance of winning an election than Labour?
No, I think if we had proportional representation, like in the Nordic countries, for example, what often happens there is you have traffic-like coalitions of parties which range on the centre-left to the more radical left. Now, my frustration about sometimes with people of your brand of politics who are very angry about the situation that's unfolded here is a failure to look at that broader picture. And what I think the problem is, because on the left, I would critique us on the left for having a lack of vision and strategy and poor communication. We've always been defined by what we're against, not what we're for. Stop the cuts, stop privatisation, stop the war, stop the world I want to get off, that kind of thing. But I think your brand of politics, your vision has collapsed as a coherent vision. And rather than accept the problems with your own strategy, which is not succeeding really at the moment in any Western country, perhaps now Germany, there's a renaissance there, but Germany's quite different as a country. I mean, they were on 20% until recently. Where you end up with Labour is one of the best performing social democratic parties in polling in Europe on its terrible polling. There was a problem. And it's the problem that's to do with all the causes I've just come up with.
No, hold on a minute. The reason why I feel angry is because I think a lot of I'm talking about the UK now, I accept your point about a broad movement, but in the UK I think a lot of the collapse has been driven by the fact that you say we've lost any sense of vision, that actually the kind of Corbynistas, McDonnell and these guys, they have always defined themselves against what we were trying to do, which I think was win to do the things that you say you're here to try to do.
Yeah,
And so
but can
now,
I critique that? Because that's a really important point. I think in 1997, New Labour had, because New Labour did have a vision. Now, I don't think it went far enough, and I think it failed to undo a lot of damage caused in the 1980s. But you had the minimum wage, devolution, a windfall tax and privatisation.
Yeah, but also we had to win.
No, but the point I'm making is this. You didn't just have winning, you also had a vision to accompany it.
Right.
Now, I don't quite understand.
And by the way, I'm not saying that's the vision we need now.
No, I know. I'm not saying that. I don't think that vision is there. And I think the more thoughtful and reflective elements on the right of the Labour Party accepts there's a lack of vision. I wrote a piece about a year ago for the New Statesman. It basically said to the Labour right, don't mourn, organise. Because, you know, and I quoted these, Chuck Ramuna, for example, he said during the first Labour leadership contest, the Labour Party was acting like a spoilt brat, a spoilt kid in a sweet shop, stamping its feet because it couldn't get the sweets on the shelf. Now, I don't think that is necessarily going to win over
about Corbyn.
Yeah, that's not going to win over the selectorate, is it? You don't win, because you've got to win the selectorate to win the electorate. And it was a kind of, rather than have a clear, inspiring, coherent vision that could win people over, what you've often had is just anger at the Corbyn project and its manifest many failures, without a failure to address the lack of vision on the part of those who oppose it.
Why did you think that Corbyn was remotely a leader?
When he stood, just to make this absolutely clear, and this is where I worry now, because when I talk about this to you, and anything critical I say about the left,
you just say what you think.
Well, fine, but I'm just saying it will be, you know.
Why are you worried about how people are going to react to what you say? Just say what you think.
No, it's not that. I'm saying
3 times now you've mentioned you're worried about what people are going to say.
No, the point I'm making is that it's not. I'm not worried for some sort of vain reasons or anything like that. Is that I'm part of the left and I feel loyal to the left.
So do I.
Of course, fine.
Right, but a lot of the people you're
I don't want to do things which will look damaging or be damaging, not to me, but to what I believe in.
So I'm asking you, did you ever think Jeremy Corbyn could lead the Labour Party to victory?
I didn't think he'd win the Labour leadership contest.
No, I know that. That's not what I asked you. Did you ever think he could win the general election and become Prime Minister? And do you believe that now?
I thought it would be very unlikely, and I thought all of the candidates were very unlikely to win any general election. I don't think any of them were capable of winning a general election. If in that contest there was one of those candidates who people genuinely thought was going to become a Labour Prime Minister, they wouldn't have said, look, if they're all unlikely to win, at least they'll go for someone who's closer to what I believe in. Now, in terms of what happened last time, after the general election, I thought Lisa Nandy would be a good candidate to stand. She just had a kid, so she didn't stand quite clearly. When me and John Trickett were going to do this thing where we went around the country, this kind of alternative, put policies on the agenda which aren't being talked about in the Labour leadership contest. And the day we were going to announce, that's the day Jeremy Corbyn said he was going to stand, so we suspended it, but I didn't think he got on the ballot paper. And then he got the ballot paper, and I was very worried because I thought he would come fourth. I didn't think he was a good communicator. And I thought what would happen would be the left would do, as he would be seen as the left candidate, would do very badly. That would be then presented as the left is finished as a political force, shut up, you're finished.
So you never thought he could win?
My view is that would be very, very challenging indeed, and a problem, and that there needed to be an attempt to make it work. So, I mean, I've wrote a very long babbling piece, like I babble a lot, as you can tell. For me, you know, I wrote a very long blog about the things that I thought needed to happen. Now, I think the problem with what happened...
One of your critics called it self-publicising agonising. Is that how it feels?
Who called it that?
But I want to pin you down on this thing about whether... Because there's clearly been a bit of a journey for you in terms of... I get the sense you thought Jeremy might win.
Win what?
At a certain point. Power.
What, a general election?
Yeah.
I always thought that'd be very challenging. I've made that very clear.
Right, I know you thought it would be challenging, but you thought, you know, it might happen. He might, once he won the leadership, it might be something going on. It might be the best of a bad job. You've now seemed to reach the point of thinking, actually, he's just on all sorts of levels not up to the job.
I think...
Is that a fair summation of what you now think?
I think it's a collective failure of the left. That's the problem. I don't think this is just about Jeremy Corbyn at all. It includes people like myself. That failure to have a clear strategy and a clear vision. Look,
but how do you get a strategy and vision without leadership?
Yeah, again, look.
I mean, it's all fine. That's why I keep going back to think about movements. Movements are great. You've got to have leaders.
I think the problem with what happened with Jeremy Corbyn was that normally when someone becomes leader, they've had years of ambition and preparation. They've got a big professionalised team around them. You know,
right, and if they haven't got that, they've got to go and get it.
They've got.
That's what I mean by the incompetence.
Let me finish. They've had experience of dealing with the media. They have a network often of sympathetic journalists. Obviously, none of that applied.
Yeah, do you?
And the first impression is absolutely critical. If you have a bad first impression, it's very difficult to shift. Most people aren't losers like us who take a daily interest in politics. They're getting on with their lives. They've got kids, family, and they come home at the end of the day and they flick on the telly and they go, who's this new guy who's leader of the Labour Party? And it's a bad first impression. That's difficult to shift. And when he became leader, it is difficult to shift. When he became...
Now, hold on a minute. If you become leader of the Labour Party, you have got a very, very big platform. The question is how you use that.
Yeah, but that's the point I'm making. So
no, it's not.
There was a collective failure at the beginning.
You can't get over that first impression.
It's hard to
and
get
actually,
over...
the first impression was broadly positive. He did something that people said he couldn't do. That's quite a good first impression.
No, I mean, the first impression was, there was at the same time as there being a media kind of maelstrom.
Oh, hold on.
No, because you're going to now say I'm blaming the media.
No, I'm not. I'm going to say...
I'm saying that he...
I'm not. I'm going to say this idea that Jeremy Corbyn gets a tough press compared to previous Labour leaders.
You've not letting me finish, that's the problem. I'm saying at the same time as there being a media maelstrom, and you had the Conservatives saying that the Labour Party is now a threat to national security, economic security, and the...
Challenge it,
and
deal
the security.
with it.
But you see,
that's what they're there for, is to attack.
That's the problem, because you keep interrupting. That's the point I'm making. It wasn't challenged.
I'm not interrupting.
You are.
I'm trying to make it a Q&A.
I'm
trying to make it snappy and short for our readers.
I'm saying that wasn't there. There was a failure at the very beginning, and you had things like that
because he didn't have a strategy.
Because there was
and he still doesn't.
Because, for example, not singing the national anthem, that cut through, for example, in a bad way. And when you're being accused of being a threat to national security and so on, then that's not helpful.
So why do it?
Well, yeah, I mean, I agree with you, don't I? Obviously, I think you should sing the national anthem in that context quite clearly. Now, I think the problem was, you know, that the left stood not in order to win the Labour leadership, but to put policies and ideas on the agenda, try to stop the other candidates drifting off to the right. And it was like charging at a door that they thought was made out of titanium, and it turned out to be made out of paper.
So do you regret giving the support? I know why you did it, but do you regret giving the support you've given to him in the past, given that he's not up to it? And I know you want to say it's not just about the leader, but I'm afraid a lot of it is.
I think revising history like that is just, I mean, what's the point?
I think the point is, my view, I understand how we got here and how we now get out of it.
What you called there, I can't remember, the self-indulgent, or what was it called? What was it again?
Self-publicising, agonising.
Right, that was actually trying to be constructive advice. That's what the whole point of it was. So I had ideas about how it could be managed, a problematic situation.
Yeah.
Now, I thought if he won, then it would make sense that he'd be perhaps a transitional leader.
Right.
That, you know...
Who do you want next?
I'm not doing that. Not going to happen.
Okay. There's a thing here written by Ian Martin. Ian Martin?
Oh yeah, good old Ian Martin, yeah. He's a good journalist.
Right. Going on about Labour's poll standing. This I don't know, I want to know how you feel about this. He says, well done, Jeremy Corbyn, Seamus Milne, Len McCluskey and Owen Jones.
Do you know what?
Wait a minute. Rarely have greater favours ever been done for the Tory party. You should all get knighthoods. Do
you know what's weird about that? Do you know what's ironic? Do you know what people on the left often do when...
He's not on the left.
No, you keep doing this.
All right.
I'm not saying that. You know, because I'm saying you've just endorsed, obviously, his logic. What people...
No, I haven't. How you feel about that?
I'm saying the left of the Labour Party.
You've got a guy on the right here who sees you... Wait a minute. Sees you as one of the four people who've delivered the...
I know.
Do you feel... Is that fair?
No, can you let me finish? You're worse than Piers Morgan.
No, I'm not.
You are. What people on the left of the Labour Party often do is...
I'm trying to pin you down.
I know, but you're not even letting me finish. What people on the left of the Labour Party often do is blame the media.
I'm not blaming the media.
You are. You're blaming the media for... I'm in the media. You're blaming a journalist for brainwashing people.
Bullshit.
And do you know
Owen, I'm asking you...
I'm saying it's wrong. Of course, that's completely wrong.
That's what I wanted to know.
Yeah, but...
I'm asking you how it makes you feel.
No, but the reason is again, it's a failure. It's you abdicating your own responsibility.
Me?
Yes, because...
Right, okay, what have I done now?
I mean, where do you begin? Look, Alastair, the problem was, okay, in terms of Jeremy Corbyn, is he filled a vacuum. That's what happened. Yeah. There was a vacuum. He didn't win because Guardian journalists wrote comment pieces. He didn't win because tens of thousands of people joined the Labour Party because they went, oh, do you know what? I'll do what Owen Jones tells me to do. That's not how it works.
Right.
What they did is they looked at these 4 candidates and they thought 3 of them, they didn't think any of them had a very good chance of winning an election.
Yeah.
And they thought 3 of them...
And they thought at least he's different.
They thought they lacked vision, they thought they were vacuous, they thought they lacked any strategy, they didn't think there was anything there, and they saw one person who they thought at least had a vision that connected them.
And you thought that as well?
I thought he
had... Up to a point?
I thought there was the potential. That's why, again, the agonising, whatever you called it, what I was trying to do, and what I've always tried to do... No, it's not upset me.
3 times you mentioned it there.
You keep doing this 3 times mention thing. You've got to stop doing this motive thing. You keep... This is the problem.
No, but I'll tell you what. Can I tell you why?
You keep doing this kind of
have you read
cod psychology.
Wait a minute. It's not cod psychology.
It is cod psychology.
Have you read any of my GQ interviews?
I haven't, no. I haven't, no.
They're very, very short and sharp. They're snappy.
Well, I don't know what we're supposed to be doing here. I'm just trying
We're talking... But I
don't want to give sound bites. That's not the point.
I'm not asking for sound bites. I'm asking for concrete, distilled argument. I don't want all these history lessons.
Well, this is the problem.
No, it's not the problem. Because how else do I find out who you are, what you're about, and why you do what you do? That's what I want to know.
I'm just saying what I think. I'm not interested in that.
I don't think you are.
I am.
I think you're worried about saying what you think.
No, I'm not.
I think you are.
Well, no. Wait a minute.
You've several times not wanted to say what you really think.
I'm saying that I want to be helpful and constructive, and I don't think me saying,
What you really think.
No, no. That's not what I'm saying. I'm saying that I think you might use things in a certain way.
I'm not going to use anything other than I'm going to take your words and put them on the paper. That's it.
I think.
And you're worrying about what other people are going to say about that.
I think talking to Tony Blair, spin doctor, in of itself, is fraught with problems. That's what I'm saying.
I think it's a privilege for you.
Right, thank you very much.
You can learn so much.
All I'm saying is that is a problematic setup, and I'm doing my best to navigate a problematic setup.
It's not problematical.
It is.
It's
and again,
straightest thing you could do.
Do you think if the Iraq War hadn't happened, Jeremy Corbyn would be leader of the Labour Party?
I think it's a factor.
Right.
But it's not the overriding
Do you
factor.
think, looking back, the Iraq War, the hundreds of thousands who died, and I'm not, again, this isn't...
I'm not getting into motive, but I think you're trying to move the ground here.
No.
I'm trying to pin down with you.
But do you not think, it's not just the hundreds of thousands of people who died, it's not just the millions of people who were displaced, it's not just the millions of people who were traumatised, it's not just the rise of ISIS and the horrors that we've seen and the destabilisation of the Middle East.
You think that's all to do with the Iraq War?
Yeah.
ISIS? You think ISIS is all to do with the Iraq War?
I think ISIS, of course, was partly... Of course it was.
All to do with the Iraq War?
Not all to do, but that was a huge factor. Of course it was.
It's a factor.
It's a huge factor.
Look, but just on your point, if I can take you back to...
But also, in terms of... Do you understand why people were angry in this country about it? And can you understand how that anger partly has led to this situation?
Partly, but not wholly.
I didn't say wholly, and I didn't say ISIS was wholly the product of the Iraq War.
Do you understand that what might, the way we're going, be the last election Labour ever win came after the Iraq War? So the public, just as at the moment, they don't define their views entirely by Brexit, nor at that time do they define them entirely by Iraq. It was a factor.
No, but
don't simplify it.
No. Let's just be clear there. Firstly, in 2005, Labour won with 35% of the vote because of our electoral... I know, but in terms of where people are, you had the advantage of the opposition party being even more pro-Iraq war than you were. Well, that's true, I'm afraid. If it was switched around and it had been the Conservative government that had done that and Labour in opposition had opposed the Iraq War, I think the situation would be different. And frankly, the gravity of the Iraq War and the horrors that were unleashed were not abundantly clear by 2005. The worst was to come.
Well,
but all I'm saying is, why do you think Tony Blair now? If there was a poll the other day, because we can talk about how unpopular Jeremy Corbyn is, and his poll ratings are very bad. Yeah. Tony Blair are even worse by a long way.
No, they're not.
Yeah, they are.
Anyway, I don't care.
No, but this is important. Why do you think now Tony Blair, and this, according to YouGov, and every single category, including Labour voters...
Partly...
Are you going to blame the media?
No, partly because the Labour Party and lots of Labour supporters never ever stand up for what Labour governments do. And partly, I tell you, for me, a lot of the blame is Ed Miliband. He allowed a narrative about the Labour government to be set, and the left will always play and ventilate the right's propaganda against the left in a way that they don't.
I don't think.
I'm sorry, it's true.
I don't think the left has convinced millions of people across the country. I don't think we have that power influence that Tony Blair, to give him a negative.
Tony's current relationship with the British people is clearly not in a place that it was when he was in power.
No, and he's much more popular than Jeremy Corbyn according to the polling. All the polling shows that.
Is he more credible though?
Well,
and also he's not standing to be Prime Minister.
No, I know, but
he's not the Labour leader.
No, but I'm trying to explain the situation we're in because
and I'm saying it's a factor.
You're quoting Ian Martin, and which is
I've got rid of him now.
All right, which is this view that my Guardian comment pieces
no.
are responsible. And the point I'm making, and this is why you go on about these. Well, it's just wrong. It's just that's not how politics works.
But the point he's making,
right?
There are a lot of journalists. How old are you now?
32.
Right. There are a lot of journalists in the world, on left and right. Sadly, more on the right than there are on the left at the moment, and they've got the upper hand. You're 32, and you are a player as well. Yes, you are. You're a player as well as a spectator in this debate on the left. That's a reflection of that. That's all I'm saying. Now, it may have been for his reasons, and he's just having a cheap jibe, and I just thought it was an interesting thing to say. Right.
He's a right-wing commentator.
But you are a player as well as a spectator. So my next question is, why don't you go the whole hog? And actually, because I think your movement thing might just be an excuse not to get more involved.
You keep doing this. Again, I think what you keep doing is misconstruing what I'm saying, Alastair.
No, I'm not.
You are, because you're making... What you think I mean is basically people just sitting around in meeting halls singing Kumbaya or something. What I mean is...
Now you're...
What I was always interested in is, you know, my view, and this was why the whole point with Corbyn the first time, was that he wasn't going to win the leadership contest, but shift the terms of debate.
My point is, you...
Going the whole hog, okay.
You are one of the voices that's been sort of in that space, and I'm just saying, look, when I was your age, when I was a journalist, there definitely came a point where I thought, yeah, you can have a bit of influence and you can be part of the debate and da-da-da, but do you know what? You can't do that much. Now, I feel you want to do quite a lot. So why not go gung-ho, get involved in a more active
Because, and you're going to ridicule this, because I'm genuinely just not personally ambitious. I didn't want to be a journalist.
You don't have to be personally ambitious to
No, I know, but I think the problem... you do to a degree, that's not true. I wrote a book which just did better than people expected. Right. Off the back of it, newspapers and TV people went, do you want to come on and talk about the book? And I went, fine. And then they went, do you want to come and write about something else, talk about something else? I went, fine.
So it's accidental. It's all been accidental.
Of course it was. I never strove to do what I did at all. And nobody who knows me thinks that. People I grew up with think it's ridiculous that I'm a journalist because or writer, whatever I am. Because I never spoke about doing that. I think I spoke about being an academic.
So what did you want to be? An academic? Right, okay.
Maybe.
You enjoy activism. Which, all right, of all the things you do, standing up and addressing a big rally doesn't float your boat?
Well, I'll do it, but it's not something I do because I think this is great. Look at me being so... I mean, I don't think that.
So why do you do it?
Because I think it's important to stand up for the things I believe in.
So all the thing is driven by a set of beliefs.
Yeah.
Have the beliefs changed at all? Have the fundamental beliefs? Do you feel as you drift into middle age?
Fuck off.
As you drift towards 40, do you feel your beliefs changing at all?
I think I'm more self-critical, and I think...
Are you less idealistic?
No, I'm still idealistic, but I don't think there's any point in having beliefs unless they can be implemented. There's a big crisis of politics all over the Western world, of general progressive views at the moment. Yeah. And that's not just my brand of politics, or just
I think it's partly because so many on the progressive side have slagged off the Blairs, slagged off the Schroders, slagged off the Jospins. It's just
delusional.
The Tories are very, very good at using history.
Yeah, I agree with
Winter of Discontent, Thatcher, Churchill. They're these big things. They use them again and again. The mess we inherited. That's part of the political language. We do the opposite.
But I'm saying you've got
to slag off our successes.
I'm saying you've got a completely simplistic analysis, which
is part of the analysis.
No, it isn't. It isn't. Look,
it is part of the analysis.
The Dutch Labour Party is not on 7% in the opinion polls because people on the left slagged it off.
No, it's not. But it's part of the analysis to why the left has drifted into failure.
It's not.
Let me ask you this question.
It's a lack of a clear vision, and it's all the other. And this is the point. Just again, this is why your brand of politics.
How do you define my brand of politics?
Well, you know, obviously you're associated very much with the New Labour project.
Yeah, no, but how do you define that?
Oh, I don't know.
No, but you said your brand of politics. What is my brand of politics?
Your politics are more on the right of the Labour Party and mine are more on the left. I think...
you might be wrong about that.
Well, I mean, I don't know where to go with that because I think it's quite clear you have a different brand of politics to me. And...
Because we're on the side. Because I'm 59 and I'm wearing a tie.
Yeah, a ridiculous tie.
I want to do all the things that you talk about. But I think I'm realistic about how much you can achieve in what sort of space of time.
Yeah, but I'm saying that, look, at the moment...
In the country that we live in, which just voted to fuck over our kids.
Yeah, it's not great. And I'm saying that the people in... Look, Stockport voted to remain narrowly. That's because it includes the suburbs. Where I grew up, voted to leave.
Yeah.
And I thought Brexit was going to happen because, unlike most journalists, I'm not from London.
Right.
And that is a failure, a collective failure of people who are progressively minded. Because where I grew up, there's lots of problems and very few migrants. It's about 2% foreign born. And there's problems like the failure to build housing, which I'm afraid partly Labour under that, they did great in terms of upgrading existing stock, but failed to build the housing that we needed, which is a big part of the problem in many communities. The failure to protect secure jobs, which continue to disappear in the new Labour period. Manufacturing jobs often replaced by low-paid, insecure, low-pressure jobs.
Jeremy comes along and says we're going to reopen the mines.
Cuts to public services and stagnating or falling living standards. And living standards in this country...
How can you talk about new Labour and cuts in public
I didn't
services?
say that. No, I'm talking about now. I'm talking about why people vote to leave now. The great investment that happened under Labour partly has obviously been reversed.
And then a complete failure, rather than engage in the reality of those arguments, what both left and right did, and we're doing it now in Article 50, is basically say, let's go with what people feel and what people think, as opposed to engage in the reality.
You know what? I had this chat with John McTernan, the former, whatever he was for Tony Blair, and he was literally coming up with the kind of simplistic analysis that comes from the radical left. False consciousness on behalf of the people. It will end up, this catastrophist view, things will go so badly wrong.
Well, I think Brexit will.
Well,
I really do.
I also think it will be a disaster.
And I think we should say what we think.
I also thought austerity and cuts would be a disaster. But there was this view on the left that austerity and cuts will be so bad and, you know, this false consciousness and people will change their minds. And that didn't pan out as hoped, did it? No.
Well, I never hoped for that. I didn't want austerity to happen and I didn't want it to...
No, I know. And, going back to record. No, this is a critical point. I want to pin you on this one.
Go on then.
Because it's absolutely critical. Defending our record. What was the most important part of Labour's record to defend? Given what the Tories did. What was the most important part of it?
Probably...
I think we agree on this, but this is a problem that a lot of people on the right of the Labour Party failed to do. Failed to defend their record on spending.
I would say investment in public services.
Absolutely, because what happened, you know, and I find this perverse...
Only possible because we actually did some difficult things on the economy.
Yeah.
Which Jeremy will never do.
People like me on the left spent year after year after year defending the spending record of Tony Blair and Gordon Brown when many of their erstwhile allies were rubbishing it.
Right.
And that was absolutely critical because what the Tories were able to do is frame all the problems we've had through the prism of spending.
And we let them.
Exactly. But people on the left didn't. And this was the irony. But it's true. This is true.
Okay, is Ed Miliband on the left?
Well, yes, he's...
Well, he was the leader of the party.
Yeah, but I'm saying...
Who failed to
When I say he's on the left, obviously, what I'm saying, I'm talking about the more radical left. I'm talking about because politics has rearranged itself.
Yeah, but also,
I was to the left of Ed
that
Miliband.
message that, you know, and I think I'm radical. I've got very radical views about the world. Why are you looking at me like that?
Well, I think you just...
You can't just own these words.
And I think you would align your... Okay, if there was a candidate standing of broadly Blairite politics, then you would back that candidate.
If I thought they were good.
Right,
if I thought they could
fair
win.
enough. But I think the point I'm making is that lots of people...
And I think a lot of things we did were incredibly radical.
But I'm saying a lot of people...
Minimum wage was radical.
I agree. Well, I went through those before.
Sure Start was radical.
I agree. These are great things.
Bank of England was radical.
Yeah,
not radical in, you know...
I didn't like that.
Overseas aid was in development.
I agree.
Africa was radical.
I agree with all of that. And do you know what's so tragic?
But what you also did, the radical left, is basically communicate a sense that all of that didn't stand for much because of Iraq.
I didn't do that. That's not true.
That's
not true.
A lot of you did.
Look, the Iraq War was not some, we all make mistakes. No, it was a calamity which claimed the lives of hundreds of thousands of people.
Yeah, no, but it was a decision which a government took. And
which was disastrous. And you talk about Brexit, and I agree. I think Brexit will be a disaster, incidentally.
Yeah.
But I don't think it will be even close to the disaster that befell Iraq. Well, I don't think it will, because I don't think hundreds of thousands of people are going to die and suicide bombers are going to be exploding.
Can I just ask you this? List these prime ministers. I want you to order them as to your sense of what they've achieved, okay? Thatcher, Major, Blair, Brown, Cameron, May.
Well, Thatcher was the most transformative Prime Minister that we've had since Attlee. She changed this country in a terrible way.
Right.
But what she did, unlike... Look, under New Labour, we got some fantastic things. Minimum wage, LGBT rights, investment in public services. We got, for example, devolution.
Peace in Northern Ireland, which Brexit's going to fuck up.
Peace in Northern Ireland, absolutely. All of these things which had the minimum wage, all of these things had a transformative impact on the lives of many people. You know, things like upgrading existing housing.
So are we taking Thatcher and Blair out of it and putting them ahead, or are we
no, I'm saying Thatcher's at the top in terms of transformative, because what she did is force her opponents to accept the underlying principles of what she did.
No, okay, all right. So Thatcher's top, yeah.
No, you see, this is why I worry. You see,
no.
Now it's like I think she's the best Prime Minister.
Listen. Will you stop worrying about how other people interpret what you and I say? This appears as we say it. Thatcher.
Yeah, I know. Now you're going to.
Thatcher most transformative.
I don't.
Thatcher most transformative.
I don't care about what people think in the way you're saying. By the way, I care about the left.
Is Tony runner-up?
Or
you're going to make David Cameron a better Prime Minister than
No, he's the worst Prime Minister. I said he was the worst Prime Minister since Chamberlain. All these historians corrected me and said, no, actually, Chamberlain helped with the rearmament of Britain.
Okay.
Actually,
John Major?
No, Tony Blair below Thatcher in terms of impact, definitely.
And Gordon and Major and Cameron?
Yeah, Cameron's the bottom, isn't he? He's the worst Prime Minister since the 18th century.
He's had a massive impact because we're going to leave the European Union.
Yeah, that's true.
So negative transformative.
That's the difference. Margaret Thatcher achieved what she set out to do, didn't she? David Cameron has had a transformative impact, but the opposite in lots of ways of what he sought to do. Well, Brown, if you think about the financial crash and the response he had and how that helped in terms of the global response.
Did well.
Yeah.
Major?
Major's the penultimate one, isn't he?
Penultimate as in above Cameron?
Yeah.
And where's Theresa May going to fall?
Well, you can't include Theresa May, can you?
Right. Labour leaders. I'm going back as far as Neil.
That's ridiculous.
Why? Kinnock, Smith, Blair, Brown, Miliband, Corbyn.
I don't want to play this game.
It's not a game. It's trying to find out what you think.
I don't know what I'm quantifying here. So
you can set your own terms. You see, I would say I think I'd have to put Ed and Jeremy down the bottom.
I think I'd put Smith at the top as someone who would have been a fantastic Prime Minister, who would have won the general election and done more radical things than Tony Blair did.
Right, you don't know that. You just don't want to say Tony's the top.
No.
3 elections.
Wait a minute, you said that I have to do...
3 elections. No.
Yeah, but that's because John Smith died. I don't think that's fair to say... I don't think he was a good leader because he died.
No, I'm not saying that.
I mean, I think
we don't know. I think he would have won.
But I'm saying what I think.
I think he would have won.
I think.
Do you think he'd have won? Do you think he'd have won a massive majority? Which I know you don't. You think we didn't do enough with, but do you think he'd have won a massive majority?
I mean that's counterfactual history. I don't know what the circumstances.
Yeah, but so saying he would have been a good Prime Minister.
I think his polling was very, very good. It was. I think he would have. I think he would have won a very, very large majority. I also think there was a good chance he would have, for example, the Iraq War, he would have done a Wilson on it, a Harold Wilson, and not deployed British troops, which would have done less long-term damage to the Labour Party as well as to the service people who died.
How many Labour leaders have won an election in the last 40 years?
Yeah, of course, it's just Tony Blair.
Tell me what you think, right now, sitting here today, on the day of 2 by-elections that we might lose, about the current state of the Labour leadership.
I think Labour in a very, very bad situation indeed, of course I do.
And?
I think that's a collective failure. I think it's a failure of people on the left and on the right of the Labour Party. I think it's a collapse of vision and strategy on all wings of the Labour Party.
Okay. See, I think you feel a lot more than that.
Thank you, Dr. Freud. You actually look a bit like you could be a therapist.
Listen, mate. If ever you need, to talk to somebody who's been through a lot. Right, let's move on. Let's move on. Let's just talk about. I know you don't want to talk about yourself. You claim.
Why do you keep doing that?
Because it provokes a reaction.
I know, it's funny. That's why. It's good. I'm entertained by it.
Good. Right. So you don't want to talk about yourself, but How would you... You're quite Marmite, aren't you?
I'm
very Marmite, right?
Okay.
A lot of people, as you know, absolutely adore me. And some people think I'm this demonic presence, right? But you're quite Marmite as well. So, and just be honest here, why do you think people that like you, and why do you think that people who find you irritating find you irritating? Be honest.
What doesn't help, and by the way, this isn't letting myself off the hook, is that I'm not only young, but also look like a 12-year-old, although the last year or so has aged me. We live in a country now where, you know, if you've got, look, politics generally is quite, you know, there's quite a lot of animosity, to say the least. Mm-hmm. And if you're someone with politics which is more radical than not, then obviously that's going to antagonise a large chunk of people. Well, but I'm sure there's lots of reasons. You know, I look young. I think people probably think I'm overconfident in terms of the things I say and do. Again, if you look like a kid, then you can't help but look petulant, particularly if you stand your ground. I think...
So how much is it to do with class and how much to do with being gay?
It's not about class, I'm not saying...
It's not about class?
Well, no, because I'm no working class hero, I never claimed to be. Yeah, I mean, the gay thing's weird because I did, for many years, and I think I regret this, I didn't really talk about LGBT stuff at all, and I think I was kind of embarrassed to talk, not embarrassed, but I didn't feel, you know, I never wanted to be a gay journalist, just someone who happened to be gay, and I think that was wrong because, you know, despite all the great advances, both because people struggled, both because of what the Labour government did, things have got a lot easier for LGBT people, but they're still very hard. Mm-hmm. It's very hard growing up. Far more likely to have mental distress, suicide. You know, you can't hold hands in the street in lots of places. Still lots of people want to beat us up. Who prefer if we didn't exist.
What's the worst homophobia you've had?
Oh, God. I mean, I think it's got worse in the last year because I think I've been more outspoken.
You don't think it's got worse because of Brexit?
I think, yes. We're going to both get attacked for saying that. But the thing with Brexit and the way it was framed is and the vast majority of people voted to leave were decent, good people, including the people I grew up with. But obviously, the small minority of very abusive bigots feel emboldened, and any form of bigotry, they think they have licence.
Mm. And how do you explain, I mean, I genuinely, I was arguing with Jonathan a bit at the magazine about this. I cannot understand how that Milo person is of any interest to anybody.
Well,
how's that Breitbart thing? How has that developed and evolved?
Because there's a growing, you know, racist and fascist movement across the West, and
that is able to be out.
Yeah, I mean, look, there's backlash taken. I mean, part of the reason Trump won, lots of reasons, but one of the reasons he won was some people think that the struggle of African Americans, of LGBT people, of women for equality has undermined their position, and they're angry about it, and they want to push back. And you know, that explains a lot of what's happened, and there's a big constituency now.
And do you think the left has just never been very good at we capitalise on values and hope and politics of hope, blah blah blah, but do you think we're just not as good at exploiting anger for political purpose?
Yeah, the right, I mean, again, this is self-flagellation because, you know, the left, I think, myself included, has been very bad often at communicating. There's this linguist in the United States who says that the right often use stories, the left use facts and statistics, as though if you just say the facts enough, people change their minds about things, which they don't.
But they never have, really.
Well, no, I mean, but
what's happened now is it's almost like the facts just get stripped out of the argument.
No, anyway. But I mean, as an example, so you know what the most commonly Googled phrase in Britain was during the last general election, during the leaders' debates?
Go on.
What is austerity? After 5 years of it, the left, myself included, banging on about it. It's not how people speak down the pub. George Osborne, do you remember him? He said the deficit is like a household budget. That is bollocks. That is economically illiterate. Unless
Thatcher said that.
Yeah, but exactly. But and unless you've got a Bank of England in your back garden printing money, and also in your household, if your daughter has her income cut, that doesn't cut. But what I'm saying is, they've come up. What most people voters think, they hear that and go, yeah, if I'm in debt, I don't spend my money. Why should the government? Yeah, got them there.
Exactly.
But the left don't do that. We go on about, you know, benefit.
Well, you may not think we were left, but I think we did do that, you see. I think we did. I think on New Labour, I think we did speak people's language.
Yeah, and I think often, this is a thing, you know, about, because some people go on about New Labour spin, and obviously we won't go into the Iraq War and how things were presented there, and, you know, but I think, for me, what was good in terms of what New Labour did, because my objections to New Labour were things like invading Iraq and, you know, not defending manufacturing properly and not regulating the city. But in terms of having a clear message, which you repeat over and over again, I think New Labour did that well, and the Tories do that. The Conservatives are excellent.
Would you ever go in the House of Lords?
No, are you kidding me?
I'm just asking you. Shami Chakrabarti did.
Yeah, fine. I'm not Shami Chakrabarti.
No, I know you're not, but I bet you.
Are you going to be in the House of Lords?
Never.
Well, there we go.
Turned it down several times. But I'm a radical, you see. No, but what about the Guardian? Do you not find the Guardian a bit sort of Oxbridge and middle class and private?
Well, I went to Oxbridge, but I went to a comprehensive. Yeah, I think the media is dominated by. I mean, it is. I know the statistics. 55% of the top 100 media professionals are privately educated. Only 7% go to a private school. Yeah, but that's a problem with the media as a whole, isn't it? That's a problem with inequality in society.
Do you think that's one of the
Fiona Miller campaigns on so well in terms of educational inequality.
Stop trying to curry favour through my missus. I mean, honestly.
Me and her, we went to City of London.
She and I.
Whatevs. She and I went to City of London. We did win a debate on abolishing private education against Jacob Rees-Mogg.
Right, and I, talk about radical, all of my life, I have argued for the abolition of private education.
Commie.